So during day one, we spent a lot of time talking about limiting beliefs and mindset, and a lot of things came up for a lot of people. So if you're okay with it, I would love to read you a passage real quick from a book. Now, I have mentioned a few books a couple times in some of these trainings already, and I'm seeing a lot of people like, oh, I love this. Tell me more about the books. Tell me more about the books. After today's training, I'm actually going to post in the Facebook group, and I'll let you know about a free resource that we have. It's not part of DBE Live, but I'm getting the idea that you'll like it. And what we call it is the Reading Vault. So inside the Reading Vault, because I'm a huge reader, we have a Google spreadsheet broken up into tabs like business and mindset, sales, copy, so on and so forth. And it's a bunch of books that I have read that I would love to promote and say, like, this is a great book. I've read it. And if you're interested, you should read it too. With that training, we also do have a full training. So with the training, with the Reading Vault, I do a speed reading training. So I actually teach you how to do a speed reading training. So we'll give that to you at the end. I don't want you to like leave the live today and start buying books and stuff. But I am going to read a passage from a book here called You Can Heal Your Life. This is Louise Hay. She is the founder of Hay House, which is one of the largest personal development publishing houses. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Have you ever read this book? Let me know if you have. But I'm just going to read you a quick passage from here. And while this is about healing your life, I want you to listen to this through the lens of business. Okay? So here we go. It's called Planting Seeds, which means that it's time for me to actually change my slide. Hello. This is what I want to read to you. So planting seeds. Think for a moment of a tomato plant. A healthy plant can have over 100 tomatoes on it. In order to get this tomato plant with all the tomatoes on it, we need to start with a small dried seed. The seed doesn't look like a tomato plant, and it sure doesn't taste like a tomato plant. If you didn't know for sure, you probably wouldn't even believe that this seed is a tomato plant. However, let's say that you plant this seed in fertile soil, and you water it, and you let the sun shine on it. When the first little tiny shoot comes up through the earth, you would never stomp on top of it and say, well, that's not a tomato plant. But rather, you'd look at it and probably say something like, oh boy, here it comes. And you'd watch it grow with delight and with excitement. In time, if you continued to water it and give it lots of sunshine and pull any weeds away that might be bothering it, you might end up with a tomato plant. And you might even end up with a tomato plant that has hundreds of luscious tomatoes on it. But it all begins with one tiny seed. This is the same thing with creating a new experience for yourself. The soil that you plant in the subconscious mind is the seed of the new affirmation for your future. The whole new experience that you are creating comes from a tiny seed. And when you water it with affirmation and action, that's my line, I just added in, when you water it with action too, right? You let the sunshine of positive thoughts beam on it. And I'm going to add some more. You bring in the community, the accountability and the support so that you don't feel like you're actually doing it alone. I added that. You weed the garden by pulling out the negative thoughts and rewiring them. And when you see the tiniest little evidence that it's poking through the earth, you would never stomp on it and say, that's enough, I'm done. Instead, you would look at it breaking through the earth and you'd say, oh boy, here it comes, it's working. And then you watch it grow and become the desire of your manifestation. Can we see what I'm trying to get at here when we're talking about business? The seeds that you plant today are the things that you might see in the future, but we need to allow it time, we need to allow it space, we need to allow it consistency, we need to allow it action and attention, because what we focus on, we find. Where attention goes, energy flows. I can give you all the one mic drops here from Joe Dispenza and Wayne Dyer and all those greats, but can you see what I'm talking about? If you would have told me 6 years ago, 12 years ago, or even 3 years ago that this is where I would be right now in the business, and this is what I would be doing, and this is where the company would be and the team would be, I never would have believed you. And in the same breath, if 12 years ago, 6 years ago, 3 years ago, I was pressuring myself to have this then, and if I didn't see all of this then, I would have quit or stopped or stomped on it and said, it's not working, well, then can't you see that I would never be here today? So I just want you to remember that for a second as we step into day 2. Building a business takes time. And I told you in day one, I'm not here just to teach you how to make money. There's plenty of people who can do that. I want to teach you something so much bigger. In fact, did anyone see today, earlier today, Facebook and Instagram both went down for a couple hours? Let me know in the chat. Say yes if you saw that. And when that happens, a lot of people, a lot of creators, a lot of business owners tend to go into a panic. Well, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? We are presenting to thousands and thousands of people right now, and it did not even bother me. It didn't even cross my mind for a second, because having an Instagram account and building a business are two very different things. And that's what I kept talking about on day one. And I know that we still can communicate with you through text message, and we can still communicate with you through email. And even if Facebook or Instagram wasn't going to come back up today, I had no doubt that I would still be able to show up in my business, and I'd still be able to make the impact and income that I desire. That's what I want you to get out of this DBE Live. That's what I want you to understand. So today we are getting into how to craft an irresistible offer. So during day one, we talked a lot about having that firm foundation, having your marketing mechanism, and then going into your sales engine or your sales system. Now, if you didn't already pull out your workbook, you're going to want to pull that out. If you have the physical copy, great. If you don't, that's okay too. We're going to flip to page 20. So all the days are broken up by quotes. So right here on page 19, we have a Joe Dispenza quote. And then when you flip it over to page 20, here is where you're going to start working with me today. The best thing that you can do is fill this out as we go, because a lot of the information that I'm going to give, it's the slides, they coordinate to what I want you to fill in. Now on pages 2 and 3, we have what we call the GPS guide, the growth, profit, and strategy. The growth, profit, and strategy guide, your GPS of where you are today and where you want to go, cannot be fully completed until day 3 is fully completed. So you'll be able after today to fill in more parts and pieces of the GPS, but you will not be able to fill the whole thing in until we complete day 3. Cool. And the team will drop the workbook link in there. If you aren't sure where it is, it lives inside of our Facebook group. So if you didn't join us for day 1, just a quick little recap of day 1, I shared my story. We talked about why digital business. We overcame the myth, and we busted the myth really that it's too saturated. The coaching industry is too saturated. We talked about the 3 different types of expert. We talked about a lot, the iceberg effect, the 6 steps to changing your beliefs, right? It's not your thoughts that become things, it's beliefs that become things. We talked about a lot, and a lot of people I heard got clarity on their niche, which makes me so happy, because that's the part that so many people get stuck on, which is really getting stuck before they start. Here are just a couple of the things that you've said. This is incredible. We have hundreds of these screenshots already. I saved them all into a little photo album. Some of my favorite things, though, that a couple people were saying is, this is different than any other training I've been to. I realized I'm already an expert. I paid $500 for a week-long intensive, and this training, the bonus training, was more. Like, I got more out of it. It was superior to that. This is a great one, too, top left corner. I came to DBE Live last year. And last year it was kind of a blur, but this year, now seeing it again and hearing it again, completely in a different place in my life and business, things are just clicking differently. So I'm loving these takeaways. I'm loving these aha moments. And a reminder, if you didn't see the bonus training, which is one of my favorite trainings, if you did come, how did you feel about the bonus training? We talked all about how to convert your followers into loyal buyers. And really what we were talking about is the psychology of learners and the psychology of buyers, and how you can integrate that into the content that you create. So that's what we did in the bonus training. Learned so much about myself. It was so helpful. It's just a different way to think about things, right? So often we're taught like content pillars, and then just put your content out and the niche and all that type of stuff. And it's like this box we have to live within. And so I wasn't giving you more rules or more boxes to live within. Remember, structure creates freedom. The more you know and apply, the more you actually can create with freedom. So that's what we talked about there. And of course, on Saturday, I announced our 4 winners. We had Catherine Smith, Robert Roll, Rachel McKay, and Emma Carr. They were our winners from posting their homework and takeaways from day 1. Today, at the end of the training, we'll be announcing some more winners. And then, of course, when you do your homework and takeaways in the Facebook group after day 2 today, on Thursday, I will be doing more winners. So super fun. Yes, congrats to all those people. All right, let's start here. What's your carrot? I always think it's so funny that we call it a carrot. We think about someone like running on the treadmill, like this little bunny with the carrot in front of them. Because aside from me, they used to call me Jessica Rabbit in college. I love carrots. Aside from my brother and I, most people aren't going to chase after a carrot. So it's a funny analogy to me. It's probably like a cookie or a brownie or something like that. But I want you to think for a moment what your carrot would be. And I want you to think about it without judgment. So like I said last time, I was a trainer for 18 years. I trained thousands of people over the years, virtually and in person. And never once, ever, not once, did someone come to me for something that wasn't a vanity metric. They came in for a vanity metric. I want to tone up. I want to lose weight. I want to lose the belly fat. I want to tighten. It was always a vanity metric. And then when they got through or into the journey of fitness, then it would slowly become like, whoa, wait, I feel really good. This feels amazing. I have more energy. I feel so empowered. I feel so strong. I want to learn how to do a pull-up. I want to join a Spartan race. But generally, the carrot that gets them into the gym for most people is based on a vanity metric. Now, it's often the same in business. And so it's okay. And you don't have, carrot cake is my favorite. You don't have to say it in the chat box, but we need to remove the like taboo feeling or the guilt and shame around wanting to make money. We have choices, right, in life. We need to pay bills. That's just the way that it goes. We have to pay for things. And the way that society works today is that we do that through money. So the choice is you can go work for someone else and make money, get a paycheck, or you can work for yourself and you can create money with that paycheck. So this stigma around making money is bad is something that we really do need to let go of, because what you're saying when you choose something like entrepreneurship is that either way, I have to pay the bills. I'd rather be in full control. I'd rather eliminate the ceiling to what I'm able to create. Money is just a part of business. If we're not making money, we have things to look at under the hood of our business, right? But also maybe it's a hobby. I don't want you to squash your dream before you've actually started because you're judging your own carrot. So just take a second and think about that. Like, what's your why? What's your carrot? Maybe it's because you just don't like having a boss. Maybe you're that type of person that you don't want to be told what to do. You want to spend more time with your family. You want to take as much vacation time as you want. Maybe you do want to have 4 houses and a private yacht. It doesn't matter. No one's here to judge you. That's your life that you're creating. But if you're judging your why, you're not going to get very far. And with that comes up all these little fear gremlins, right? Remember him? Gizmo, I think is his name, from Gremlins. Dating myself. You can write this down, but it's not in your workbook. And I want you to do this for a second. So a lot of us had this kind of little brain pop on day one where we're like, wait a minute, I'm not an imposter. I'm not sick. I don't have a syndrome. I just feel like a beginner. Oh my gosh, what a weight off my shoulders. There's other stuff that comes up though, right? There's other stuff that you're giving your power away to. There's other stuff that you might think that stop you before you start. And we talked about it, the Joe Dispenza quote, your familiar past, the way that you think, the habits that you have, the people that you hang out with, the things that you do, the patterns will sooner or later become your predictable future if you don't make a change. So real quick, do this with me. Write down just one, like the top fear gremlin that comes up for you. And maybe it is imposter syndrome. Maybe it's not enoughness. Maybe it's feeling reject or being scared of rejection. Maybe it's comparison, looking stupid, people judging you. What might your family think? What might your friends from high school and college think? So go ahead and write that down. Like the number one, you don't have to write it in the chat if you don't want to, but the number one fear gremlin that's just like lingering on your shoulder. And you're like, if you could just get off my shoulder, I know I can make some moves. And now that you wrote it down, I want you to say it out loud. Like as crazy as that would feel, because you're just staring at a computer right now, go ahead, say it out loud. You're on mute. No one can hear you, but say, my fear gremlin that's holding me back is the fear of rejection. The fear gremlin that's holding me back is the comparison, me comparing myself to other people. Yeah, my fear that's holding me back, this gremlin that's holding me back is the fear of failure, the fear of looking stupid, embarrassing myself in front of people. Now, as you say it out loud, I want you to feel it. And just for a second, where in your body do you actually feel it? Some people, it's like, oh man, my armpits get sweaty. Some people, they get like a chest tightness. Some people, it's a pit in the stomach. Some people, it's like a heaviness in the shoulders where there's almost like a headache coming on. All of the above. Yeah, deep in my heart. And if you're brave enough, post it. Yeah. And then I want you just to breathe through it for a second. So say it again, feel it again, and just breathe through it. The fear gremlin that's holding me back is the fear of failure. Wow. Like, ooh, I get that like a little bit in my throat. And then I'm just going to breathe it out and remind myself that I'm safe. It's an emotion that I'm feeling, and I'm a human, so it's okay, right? Yeah. All right, let's start to move through this. By the way, y'all, I smartened up. I brought my box of tissues today. We have them right here. If you came to Saturday, you know they threw a box at me. If you came to Thursday of last week, my nose runs when I speak. I don't know what to do about it. All right, so to review, this is what we were talking about on Thursday. The goal for so many of us is the orange bullseye in the middle, and we call that holistic freedom. And we talked about how in order to have holistic freedom, we need the critical outcomes where they intersect, which is having that audience growth, that global impact, and that consistent sales. And then we got a little bit deeper and we started to fill that Venn diagram in. So we started to unpack the 3 key pillars. And on day 1, we really leaned into a lot of the firm foundation stuff because you both know, right? We talked about this. You can't build a skyscraper on quicksand. So we want to have a solid foundation so that we don't go so we're not sinking, but rather we're solid. Now, today in day 2, we're going to talk a lot about the marketing mechanism, which is where most people get really excited because this is where we get to go from unknown to known. Followers, audience, people knowing about us, people asking to work with us. And then guess what? On day 3, on Thursday, we're going to really dive into that sales system. This is all very intentional. I can't possibly teach you all of this stuff in one day, right? But here's the thing. If you are like checking this Venn diagram out in depth, you will notice that there's actually a border around the whole thing. And that's because we still have 9 more missing pieces. So these little lines are going to get split into 9 more missing pieces. And these are the accelerators that I'm going to be teaching in day 3. So you're definitely going to want to stick around and make sure you come back to that. And before we break down the 6-figure framework today, which is what we're doing on workbook pages 20 to 30, I want you to just ask yourself a couple of these questions. So kind of going back to the fear gremlin thing, why are you choosing entrepreneurship or being a business owner or doing digital marketing or being a coach? What would it give your life? What would it look like for you? What would your financial goals be? What would your personal goals be? And if you take a look at the screen, I wrote you and your in all capitals because too often we blindly follow other people. We blindly follow their goals. We blindly follow their business models. I have been a victim of this so many times where there are things that come up. For example, it's like the 6-figure year or like the 10K month or the $1 million business owner or the having multiple homes or the living a snowbird life, having a podcast, having a YouTube, speaking on stages, writing a book. A lot of times we blindly follow those goals that are other people's goals because we think that we're supposed to or we have to in order to be successful. Because while success leaves clues, we say, okay, that person in my eyes is successful and this is what he or she did or he or she has, and that means that's what I have to do. But we're not here to do that. We're here to build a business around our life, not our life around our business. So be very mindful that you know your goals, your financial, your personal, your business, your reason for being in the entrepreneurial space. And it's okay if your reason is different than mine. I've got a lot of reasons, right? Okay, the 6-figure framework. This is what we're talking about. So you can start this on page 20 of your workbook. And this is the model that is going to help you take back your time. This is the model that can create ease and flow and effortlessness and alignment and all the things, the buzzwords that people are selling that people think that they want. Really what we want though is the feeling that freedom gives us. We're craving the feeling that we think we're going to get from the $1 million. We're craving the feeling that we think we're going to get from the 50,000 followers. It's not actually the number of followers that we care about or the money that we necessarily care about, but what the followers or the money or the business will give us. When you break that down, there's something underlying where there's a feeling that you think you'll get. And then like so many people, you actually get there to the goal and you don't get that feeling, or you do get the feeling and you become addicted to it and you just keep going and you keep stretching the finish line. How many people have done this? Let me know in the chat box if you've ever done this, where it's kind of like running. I'm not a runner. But it's kind of like running. You're jogging, and in your head, you're like, okay, just get to the fire hydrant. And then you get to the fire hydrant, and you're like, oh, I kind of still have some gas in the tank. You're like, okay, go to the corner. So you get to the corner, and then you're like, I still have gas in the tank. All right, let me get to the tree. And you kind of keep moving the finish line. So even if you're not a runner, you know what I mean. We do this in business. I do that. That's how I run. If I am going to run, that's how I run too. It's like these tiny little micro goals. Let me just do this next thing, and this next thing, and this next thing. And that's great, because that's what continues us moving forward, but it's also the thing that could be our downfall. It could be the demise of everything. It could cause burnout. It could cause you to have the blinders on so deeply that you're not seeing all the things around you that you're missing. Whether that's relationships, health, other opportunities. I've been there. I've done that so many times. Here we go. Number 1. Fill it in. This is so fun. This is so easy. This is the 6-figure framework. The first thing that we want to do is we want to attract. So everyone wants to attract leads, social media, and marketing, right? And what does that mean? We want to have that foundation so that we can attract. We can create the connection. Who here has heard of know, like, trust? People talk about it all the time on social media. You want to build know, like, trust. The attraction is to make sure that we're in alignment. Like attracts like. So most of the people here in this training, we've got things in similar realms. We've got similar characteristics. We probably have similar values. There's a reason that you ended up in my world. And it could have been because a friend invited you or you saw an ad, but likely something that I did or said or the way that I show up or how my page was created, there's something where you're like, oh, I see myself in her. Oh, I think we could get along. I think we could be friends. That's the alignment piece, right? And that comes through messaging and brand. So conceptually, this is really easy. Step 1, attract your ideal client. But how, right? But how do we do it? And this is where we're building that audience of dream clients. Now, it's interesting because a lot of times people have low-hanging fruit. So if you have had a social media account previously, or maybe you've had a business previously, and it was in one specific topic. So let's say you're an accountant and you are building a business or you're known for accounting. A lot of the people in your audience might follow you for accounting tips or bookkeeping tips, anything to do with money and numbers. And then you have this transformational moment in your life. This life-changing thing happens. Maybe it's a traumatic thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just start learning more about yourself and awakening. And then you step into yoga and you become obsessed with yoga and you end up going to Thailand and you get certified to be a yoga instructor and you have these dreams, midlife dreams, that you want to shift from accounting to all of a sudden yoga. But your entire current audience is there for accounting. And so now the question remains, do you start a brand new audience, or do you just put content out now about yoga and continue to bang your head against the wall when all of your accounting people don't really care about the yoga content? And so how do you attract the people that you want, right? That's what this is all about. And there are strategies behind what to do and how to do it. And if you are in that situation, it might not be the best idea to keep that page alive. Even if it has 20,000 followers, you might not want to keep that page alive, because if people were following you from accounting, they likely won't be interested in the new thing that you're doing. This is where it gets hairy. And the reason that I said that's low-hanging fruit is you can continue on that journey of putting out accounting stuff, and you could probably sell accounting things to those people who want the accounting things. But if that's not where the new direction of your life is, the pirouette, as we call it, not a pivot, the pirouette, as we call it, the evolution of self, evolution of business, well, then it might be the perfect opportunity for you to start fresh, right? Yeah. Oh, we got a 500-hour yoga instructor and a CPA. I love it. Sarah W., I'm talking to you. All right. Number 2, the second step here in the 6-figure framework, once we attract, we then want to convert. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Obviously, we want to convert, right? Conversion, when you can have that conversion piece on lock and you know how to duplicate it, this is where your business becomes predictable. And when you have a profitable offer that's proven, well, now you've got the machine. And we're talking about offers today. So the conversion piece comes from a lot, right? This is, are they buying? Do they become a client? Does the sale come through? And there's so many pieces here with strategy. There's mindset, there's clarity, there's experience that's going to happen. You can read, it's all right there. So today we're going to focus a lot on how you create an irresistible and profitable offer. Because remember, on day 1, I said, when you understand marketing, it's a superpower. You're all already innately good at something. Your service providers, you care, you show up, you want to make an impact. You're already good at that stuff. So whether that is making felt little animals and teaching people how to do that, or maybe you're a CPA, like I said, or you're a real estate agent, or you're just a regular old person who happens to own 4 Airbnbs and you have that skill set where you can teach people how you've done it. You have all those skills. You're already a nutritionist. You're already a trainer. And you've worked so hard on becoming an expert and a master in that area. So now it's just one more thing, one more tool we get to add to our tool belt. And that's the tool of marketing and conversion. Because when you know those conversion numbers, we said on day 1, math is the path, then you can just plug in and start to turn the dials and it becomes really predictable. You're given a buffet of options for what you can do and how you can reach more people. And of course, after we attract the audience that we want, not just any old audience, the audience that we want, we convert the audience, it's not sleazy, then we can move forward and we can serve the audience. And this is the best part in my opinion. This is the best part. I mean, I'm literally getting to do that right now. This is the best part, is the service. This is the experience that they get. This is the framework that you give them. This is the result that they have on the other side of the journey, right? The service is really where so much of the trust and the and rapport comes in. People talk about know, like, and trust in the attract area, which is absolutely true. How do you build that know, like, and trust in social media? But I really think that the trust and the rapport comes from the service. What's the experience that my people had? You know, I look over into the chat box and I see graduates of our program that are here, people that are doing 6, multiple 6, even 7 figures a year in business, and they're here. Now they're here because they know what good it's going to do for their own business, but they're also here because they're believers, right? Like they're ambassadors for my brand and for what we do. That's amazing. That's the best thing. That is the best type of marketing you could ever have. Word of mouth marketing doesn't cost you anything. And results, client results, oh my gosh. Now, this system in itself is a funnel. And we talked about a funnel on day 1. And actually, I sent an email this morning a little bit that had to do with funnels. Did anyone read that email? It was a little bit of spicy, Jess. It was titled, I don't know, Truth Bomb Tuesday, something like that, a little spicy Tuesday. And I sent an email. It has actually nothing to do with the people that are on here, or maybe it did and it got you to move. But I was talking about how the difference between the successful business owner and the struggling one who's really stuck is the consistency, is the follow through, and is the integrity. Integrity is how you honor your own word. And so I'm not speaking necessarily to you because you're here right now live or watching the replay, but there are thousands and thousands of people who made a commitment to themselves, not to me. This isn't about me. I'm going to do this dance all day anyway. This is about you, right? You committed to yourself, signed up for this free thing, said, I'm going to do it. This is going to be different. 2024, it's my year. And then we get halfway through and people fall off. They don't follow through. There's no consistency. They feel behind. They let the behindness and the overwhelm take over. What's the point? I can't do it. I don't have time. I'm going to prioritize something else over this, and that's fine. It's totally fine. Yes, Tough Love Tuesday. Thank you. But in that email, we talked about a funnel. And the reason that a funnel looks the way that it does when it goes big to small, top to bottom, is because we all have a funnel. We talked about this, like just having a social media, doing a podcast episode, talking to people at in the lunchroom at work is the top of your funnel. And as it gets more serious, less and less people come to whatever it is. Less and less people take action. Less and less people do the work. Less and less people invest in the thing. So it's a funnel. So you already have a funnel. This, though, is the funnel. It's how do you attract people? How do you convert people? And it could be for free. Like you coming to this for free is conversion. And then how do you serve those people? And likely you'll be serving the ones that are paying. Likely. Not always, but likely. And when you have that on lock, you get insane results. So when you plug into the 6-figure framework, these are just some of the thousands of screenshots of results that I have. I mean, could you imagine? Let's just stay here for 1 second. Okay, 4th person joined my program at $1,500. I'm at almost $5,000. It is possible. Highest paying one-on-one client I've ever had, a $3,000 pay in full, $6,900. Look at this. I used to have to work 69 trainer hours on the floor to make that kind of money. She was doing $100 an hour to be a personal trainer, 69 clients to make that kind of money. And now in one launch online, this is what I'm able to do. My first person signed up. My pre-launch price was $700. I mean, I can go on and on. I have so many of these, but these results have come from this 6-figure framework. It's really, it's simple, not easy. You know what I mean? It's simple, not easy. Like, it's not rocket science, but it takes work, and it takes consistency and follow through and integrity. Okay. As we're going through this, a lot of stuff is going to come up. Love Joey, love Friends, definitely my favorite. Blah, 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 boobity blah, right? What comes up a lot of times is defense. We come up into block, and we talked about this a little bit on day 1. Yeah, but I know this, I've tried that. I'm not certified. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't have an email list. I don't know how. I don't have the followers. And we're going to go on and on and on, and we're going to create a list of reasons why we can't, so that we can prove ourselves right. That's what we do. We create a list so that we can actually prove ourselves right. And then we can kind of kick our feet back and not do anything, because what's the point? We already created a scenario where it isn't existing. It doesn't come to be. It's not true, right? So much easier to do this. Be mindful of the little fear gremlin and the little Joey that's coming up and telling you all these stories. Because I can sit here for hours and prove to you how that's not true. I can give you example after example of clients that have been in the same spot, that have been able to do it. Maybe even in worse spots that have been able to do it. And that's why we share stories. That's why I share case studies of clients that are cancer survivors, clients who are literally in the hospital while launching, clients who are single moms, clients who are single dads with 6 kids, clients who have adopted kids. I mean, on and on and on. Bankruptcy, divorce, all of it. Different languages, no social media, got hacked. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And I share the stories so that you could see yourself in these people, because I want you to recognize what you're capable of actually doing. When you say something like, I don't have the money yet, by the way, right? What I want you to recognize is that's that fear. And it's probably coming up because the last time you tried, or the last time you didn't finish, or the last time you self-sabotaged, or the last program you took didn't work. And something like, I don't have money, is a really easy blanket statement for us to sort of hide behind. Now there's reality, there's circumstance and reality. We have had people come through the program who are literally have filed bankruptcy, and they don't have the money right now. But they also know that if they bet on themselves, that's the best place to put the money. Because when you're learning a skill, you get to take that with you for life. We're teaching you a roadmap to create money. So I'm not saying I'm going to fix all your problems, but I'm just saying be mindful of the old beliefs and the patterns that are creeping in. Just be mindful, that's all. Because there is someone else, like I said, with less money, with less time, where it is possible. I'm going to share a story right now, this evidence that you get to borrow to remove the block as we move into this framework. This is Teresa. She's amazing. Talk about a busy woman. She's a mom of 6. 4 of her kids are adopted. She's a best-selling author of 5 books. She's currently writing her 6th book. She's a podcast host. She and her husband own a bunch of properties, and she's currently managing 5 Airbnbs. And the thing that I love most about Teresa is that what her books are about, what her content is about, and what her courses that she created are about is actually religion. And she hid behind, I mean, she's got pink hair, like she's the coolest, but she hid behind what she really wanted to talk about for so long because she was scared that people would judge her, that people wouldn't take her seriously, or that she would be leaving money on the table. Because the religious thing is so polarizing. It's such a niche thing that what would then happen to all the people who don't believe the same way that she believes? And let me tell you, her business exploded when she first started to really focus and hone in on that. And the first launch that she ever did with literally no time. This woman has no time, no extra time. She had a $5,500 beta launch. And this is a woman, a lot of people know her from our community, where she would be walking on one of those walking treadmill pads during every single coaching call, where she would like make me seasick because she would just be on all the time. She's like, this is the only time I can get it in. That's the type of woman. That's what she was doing. She was prioritizing herself, and she was prioritizing her future. Now, I said it all the time, right? There's circumstance. And if you listened to episode 8 of the podcast, which is from years ago, episode 8, we're on like 200, I talked about this idea of objections, right? Now, she's a busy person, but for her, she put it in the pockets of her day. And this is what I want you to get out of this. What that means is forward is a pace. Did you hear me? Forward is a pace. I know we think of it as a direction, but moving forward is a pace. The tomato seed, underground, we can't see what it's doing, but it's still doing something. It's growing. The roots are coming out. The seedling is coming up. But just because we don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Forward is a pace. And the thing that worked for Teresa, she's been in business now for a couple of years. I mean, this was years ago we worked together, and her business has just continued to evolve. But what worked for Teresa is removing the timeline and the deadline and the pressure and the other people's goals. She said, here's the reality. I'm a mom of 6. I'm running 5 Airbnbs and I'm in the middle of writing a book because at the time she was on book number 3 of 6 and she had a contract with a publishing company. So she had to finish. She said, for me, it's whatever I can put into it. That's all that I ask. It's just a little bit every day. Forward is a pace. And now today, her business looks wildly different. I said it before, knowing that skill, it's a skill you can take with you anywhere and you can create money on demand. You really, truly can. And I'm not saying it's going to rain out of the sky and it's going to be millions of dollars. But when you know marketing and when you know how to create an irresistible offer, you can turn that faucet on. It's so cool to be able to do that. It's so empowering to be able to do that. And I'm here to collapse the timeline for you. Now, I've already shared my story so many times, but I love this screenshot. I always love when I see like Facebook memories pop up. If you look really closely, you can actually see I have a boot on because I had just had ankle surgery while I was a phys ed teacher, teaching phys ed in a wheelchair for the second time in a wheelchair, by the way. And if you look really closely, you can see here it says Alter Ego. One of my first brands, not my very first, but this was like my second iteration of business back in 2014 and 2015, was called Alter Ego Health and Fitness. And not only was it this cute play on like alter ego, because by day I'm a phys ed teacher and I do fitness competitions, but by night I'm like this boss lady starting this business. I also called it that because I was hiding. I didn't want my students to find me online. I didn't want my principal and my school district to find me on the internet. I was scared of being found. And so I hid behind this thing. And what I'm doing in this video while watching football on a Sunday with Mike and my parents, I remember it clear as day, 2014 this was, I was creating my very first opt-in. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. An opt-in is where you give someone something for free in exchange. They give you their email and it builds your email list. I have made so many mistakes over the years, and I can talk about hundreds of them just from this one project alone. But I now, today, 2024, have done well over 100 different launches of all different products and prices and sizes and capacities, challenges and webinars and evergreen and passive and you name it, like down to $17 up to $25,000, $30,000. I've done everything, in-person retreats, Costa Rica, monthly events, all of it, everything, ebooks, blogs, you name it. And my job is to help collapse the timeline for you because I've already made those mistakes. But this is where messy action comes into play. This is where done is better than perfect. This is where C students still get a grade, right? Like you still graduate when you get a C in school. It's okay to get a C. And this is where clarity comes through contrast. You don't know you don't like olives until you try olives. The contrast of trying it and doing it and testing it is where you start to learn it. And the ABC method of action breeds confidence or action breeds clarity. I'm going to say something here. You're going to want to write this down. You're going to write this down. Trust me. It's not in the workbook anywhere. Perfectionism is the lowest standard that you can set for yourself. Hold on. First of all, let me know in the chat if we have any other recovering perfectionists here. I definitely am a recovering perfectionist. The studio is too. I see hands up in the studio. Thank you for being honest. Okay, let's unpack this. Perfectionism is the lowest standard that you can set for yourself. Now, here's why. Perfect doesn't exist. It does not anywhere. So when you set the standard or the bar for yourself that it needs to be perfect or you need to be perfect, what you're actually doing is you're giving yourself an out before you start. Because you know deep down inside, you know subconsciously, especially everyone here, we're adults, like we know this. I will never be able to obtain or reach perfectionism. So by setting perfectionism as my standard or my baseline or my goal, what I'm actually doing is sabotaging myself to say, well, it doesn't really matter if I don't try. It doesn't really matter if I go all in or not, because I'll never hit that. Oh, I'll never hit that. And then we hide behind it and we put this mask on and we're like, I'm a perfectionist. Are you, or are you just not really taking action? Right? Be careful, be mindful. It's the lowest bar you can set for yourself. And because I was able to, many years ago, step away from perfectionism through healing an eating disorder, I had an eating disorder for about 10 years, and stepping into outpatient therapy was the first time in my life that I willingly asked for help. This was when I was in my early 20s, and asking for help in that moment saved my life. And in my early 20s, I had this epiphany, this download, this aha moment of like, wow, that was weird. When I removed my ego and I was willing to say, I need help, I don't know what I'm doing, it saved my life. Now, that didn't change my life overnight. No, I went back to my old ways, not the eating disorder, but thinking I knew everything, not admitting I was wrong, not asking for help, never raising my hand. And I did that for about 8 more years. And then in my late 20s, I had this moment where I was like, wait a minute. Remember that time, Jess, that you asked for help and it saved your life? What if you did it again? And that's when I quit my teaching job. And I told you the story on Thursday, and I said, and in the moment that I quit my teaching job, I committed to Mike and to myself. I said, I will do whatever I have to do to make ends meet. I will ask for help. I'll remove my ego. I'll put myself in the room. I'll get uncomfortable. And most importantly, I am willing to take messy action. And you know what happened after that. My team and I have put all of this together into a 5-step process to make it really easy for you. So let me know if you're ready, and I'm going to take a sip of water. If you're ready for the 5-step process, we're going to be moving on now to page 21 and starting to fill that in. Awesome. Yes, awesome. Bring it on. Cool. Ready. I love it. Sierra, what's going on, love? Deborah, nice to see you in here. Lady Stiletto, always a pleasure. Okay. So with this was a Steve Jobs quote. It's my favorite one. This kind of goes back to the tomato plant. I'm like a broken record saying the same thing over and over. I want you to get it. You can't connect the dots looking backwards. Nope, that's not what it says. You can't connect the dots looking forwards. You can only connect them looking back. You'll have to trust that the dots will somehow appear, right? And they'll connect in your future. And when I look back to the picture of my parents' dog, Bentley, who's still alive, he's 14 today, and I see my ankle in the boot and I'm on my computer and I'm working on alter ego fitness, there's no way I could have connected all the dots. But now looking back, I'm like, of course I'm here today. Of course this makes sense. I've been at this for over a decade. I'm so grateful I learned those lessons then. I'm so grateful for planting the seeds when I did. Things that you hear today might actually be for your tomorrow. Here are the 5 steps. All right, this is page 21. These are the 5 steps that I've created because I've realized after working with thousands of people, I do the same thing with everybody every single time. This is essentially the 6-figure framework now broken down into smaller steps. So that attract, convert, serve, this is that, but even broken down smaller. And we're going to go through each slide and I'm going to break down each level. So don't worry if you can't see it. Don't worry if it's too far. This is also in your workbook. Now, what I love about our core program Empower is that we actually break all this down month by month. And so that Venn diagram that I taught you, right? Month 1 is all about the firm foundation. Month 2, we focus on marketing. Month 3, we focus on sales. We plug all these steps into those 3 months. It just kind of magically worked out that way. Step number 1 is extract. This is what is your promise. Each of these are going to come with a P. So what's your promise? What's your story? What's your transformation? What makes you an expert? What do you stand for? What do you not stand for? Who do you stand for? Who do you not stand for? What is the promise that you give that you're going to help people with? When they land on your page, for lack of a better term, what can they get out of you? Now, step 1 is for you to extract that out of your head. No one will know that but you. Nobody knows that but you. So what have you been through? And you can journal on this later today. You don't have to do it right now. But what have you been through? What's your personal story? What's your purpose? What's your why? What makes you relatable? What makes you credible? Extract all of that out of your head. A really great exercise here is to ask people that know you really well Friends, family, coworkers, what do you think of when you think of me? If you were to hire me for anything, what would you hire me for? If I were to give a TED Talk on something that you think of when you think of me, what would the topic be? Like, these are great questions. And if you want to take it a step further, ask people that don't really know you. If you already have a social media presence, if you're somewhat consistently posting, you can ask your audience. They're going to help you extract what it is. Now, there's other exercises that you can do too. I don't want to overwhelm you, but going through your life's timeline is really transformational as well, so that you can start to recognize things that you've been through, good, bad, ugly, all the different. Doesn't matter, right? Things that have happened in your life that make you who you are and the expert that you are. So extract what is the promise. The second step here is you're then going to identify what is your process. Now, this is easier for people who already have one-on-one clients because, like I just said, I've done this process thousands of times. And when you start to do something dozens or hundreds of times with clients, you start to realize, wait a minute, I actually do have a process. Anytime I work with a client, I always start with them here. I always ask them this question. I always have them do this activity. When they get stuck on this thing, this is kind of always my answer. This is my approach to how we handle that. So with your process, it's how you help them. It's what makes you different. It's how you're literally going to get them from A to B, but it's also what is your profitable course topic? What is your profitable coaching topic? What is your profitable business topic? And think about that. Like, what are you do and say on repeat with clients? And if you haven't worked with clients yet, that's okay. What are the questions that come up? What are the things people are asking? Even if you're still in the research phase, what do you find yourself looking for answers in? When you're attracted to somebody's content, what about it are you attracted to? What's the topic or the theme that they're talking about that's making you attracted to it, making you lean in and listen harder? That's likely going to be a part of your process. Now, when you do it on repeat, when you've done it a bunch of times, it's very easy to make it a process. And this is where I'm like such a huge advocate for the group stuff, for the group coaching, for the courses, because I could do the same process over and over with a lot of one-on-ones and be on the phone for 40 hours a week, or I can be on the phone for 1 hour a week and have 40 people in the same room, right? More impact, more income, less of my time. Part of my process is always, how can I safeguard against overwhelm? How can I safeguard against the roadblocks? I know that it's not a matter of if my clients get overwhelmed, but when they get overwhelmed. It's gonna happen. So part of my process is to put the bumper in. You know the bumper lanes, like when you go bowling? I always put the bumpers into any of my programs, and I do that through 4 C's. This isn't in your workbook, you can write this down. So I always make sure that there's content. The content is where they're going to be learning. That might be a slideshow, it might be a video, it could be an audio piece of content. It could be what I did on Saturday where I was writing on the whiteboard. It could be a live training. But the content is where I teach. Teach and coach are 2 very different things. Don't get them confused. Right now I'm teaching you, I'm not coaching you. As much as I'll say, like, write in the chat box, what's going on? I'm not going back and forth with you. I'm really not. So I'm teaching you content, and the content is for you to learn on your own time. I can pace you through it, but you have to do it yourself. The second C is coaching. So now the coaching is where we get to work together, and I get to get my hands in your business and answer your questions and help you see what you can't see, because we can't read a prescription bottle from the inside. The coaching is where I guide you. And this is where a lot of people mess up. Coaching is not tell you the answer. That's not what good coaches do. That's not what therapists do, right? And therapy is different than coaching and teaching. They're all very different. There's coaching, there's teaching, there's therapy, there's cheerleaders, all very different roles. Now, I can play a lot of them. I cannot play therapist because it's outside my legal scope of practice. I can use tools that I've learned in things like NLP, but I can't do therapy. So I don't pretend I can. So we've got the content where you learn, where I'm teaching you. We've got the coaching where we're now doing the back and forth and I'm making sure that you get it. We've got the community, because we're not meant to do business or life alone, because we need the accountability and the support, because none of us like feeling like the lone wolf. None of us like feeling like we're the only one. And when just even one tiny little thing pops up where you're like, oh my gosh, you too? Wow. Now I feel so seen. I feel so heard. I feel so safe. Content, coaching, community, and the fourth one, which I believe many coaches and programs are missing, and I credit this back to being a school teacher, is continuing education. Continuing education. You're not a dollar sign when you're in my world. You're a human, and my job is to help you in your journey. And so when you're done with a program, there's still continuing education. What do you need next? How can I support you? What's coming up in the journey now? What types of questions do you have now? What would be helpful for you now, even if it's free? Part of my process is making sure that we are teaching to the different learning styles for the divergent learner. We've got all of our stuff in Empower on an audio podcast for listening on the go. There's progress trackers. We gamify things. We incentivize. We make it fun. There's checklists and flowcharts and daily support. There's all sorts of stuff within my process. Can you see how this process is multifaceted? So it's not just what I do with my clients, it's how I do it. That's what your process is. It's both. It's not just the what, so it's not just the question, step 1, step 2, but it's how you do it and present it. Now, the number 3 is going to be share. So when you extract all those pieces and you identify the who and the what, now we can get into the sharing, and this is really where your position comes in. So your position is your message or your unique skill. Your position is what is your stance and how do you show up? Your position is literally where are you in the launch phase? What position are you in? Your position is how do your potential clients see you? Now, the thing is, when it comes to position, a lot of people think of polarity. We love polarity. We love polarity. It's what gets you to stand out because there's a lot of people doing what you do. But polarity doesn't have to be politics. Polarity doesn't have to be about social injustice. And polarity doesn't have to be anti-vanilla. It can be pro-chocolate. You know what I mean? It's really easy to come on and say all the things that you hate and what's wrong with your industry and shame on that way and shame on that way. But do you really want to be known for that? Or do you want to just be known for that's the vibe I want in? That's how I want to do it, that I want in. She gets me, he gets me, I want in. When you're in your position, it's how do you want people to feel? And when we think about DBE Live, not even DBE Live, DBE, our company, some of the words that pop up for me, I'm actually curious, what pops up for you? So what are the emotions that you feel, even if you just are experiencing us for the first time? What are some of the emotions that you feel with Digital Business Evolution as a company, or when you land on my social media page? What are some of the things that you feel? Not the stuff that I'm teaching you, but how do you actually feel when you land here? Inspired, enthusiasm. Keep going. This is great. Great market research. Authentic. Why? Because I have tissues all the time with me. Organic, genuine, engaged, relieved. Yes. What else? Integrity, held, supported, authentic. Well, this is great because some of our company values, what we want you to feel, is number 1, relatable. Being in a studio for most of you, this is not relatable. Like this is, whoa, production value, and she's spending money and doing all this stuff, and maybe I hate being on camera. But then that's why the duality of it is on Saturday, I'm in my slippers and I've got a tissue box and Mike brings me water in the middle of the training because I'm a human, right? Digestible. Is it easy to understand? That's a huge value of mine. Empowered, brave, capable, abundant, grounded, safe, expanded, powerful, welcome, accessible. Like this is how I want you to feel when you come into our company. So when I'm sharing, that's what I'm thinking about. Number 4 is create. So what is the product and the offer that you're going to create? These are 2 different things. We're talking about them today. So what's your offer? What's your product? Where does that fall in your ascension model or your product suite, which we're going to get more into today as well? What are the deliverables that you're going to give somebody? What's the experience that they're going to have? When you're in the creation phase, it's not just create content. It's what's the creation of it all, right? What are all the pieces? And a huge mistake that I see coaches making is that they think that their product and their offer are the same thing. And that is the thorn in your business side. I promise you. The very last step here, of course, is generate. So generate's going to be what's your price point? What's the value? What's the perceived value of the thing that you're selling? Where are your leads coming from? Where are your sales coming from? What type of impact and income are you generating? Now, when we get into pricing, I can talk about this for a really long time. Has anyone here ever gotten stuck on pricing? Just say yes in the chat box if you have. A lot of people get tripped up on price. They don't know what to do. They're not sure what's best. Awesome. Thank you for being honest. Pricing is funny. There's like industry standard, but at the same time, throw it out because like you can buy a purse at Macy's for $45 and then a purse from, I don't know, Fendi or Prada or Gucci or something can be like $10,000 or whatever those brands are. It could be like $20,000. Now I know I went to fashion school. I understand handmade, leather, like it is different. But at the same time, they can be the same schematics, the same size, the same amount of pockets, the same amount of zippers. They both hold stuff. It's like the functionality of it is the same. The make of it might be different, but it's impossible to say industry standard when there's an industry where it's like, oh, this is $45 and this is $20,000, and they ultimately do the same thing. So this is where I'm like, industry standard's tough. Don't just look at industry standard. And at the same time, don't just calculate your hourly and multiply it by how many hours. And most importantly, stop charging your worth. What? I get, like, the meme is really cute. Charge your worth and then add tax. Here's the thing. If you had an hour left of your life and you were on your deathbed and you had two choices. Choice A was spend that hour with all of your friends, family, and loved one. Or choice B was a random person on the internet was going to write you a check, and it could be as big as you wanted, but they wanted to work with you for that last hour of your life. What would you pick? Obviously, you're going to pick spending time with your loved ones. So that by nature tells me you can't charge your worth. That is not how you should be picking your pricing. What you price should feel good. Like, you don't want to be resentful of it. It should feel good. It should make sense. It should stretch you a little bit, but you're not charging your worth. You can't. No one would ever pay you that, right? So what I don't want you to do is, if you're in a launch, if you're selling something, if you're promoting something and it's not working, don't just adjust the price. It's not a price. It's likely not a price problem. It's a messaging problem. More often than not, you haven't gotten the perceived value across. It's not the number. And it could be, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I'd say 99.8% of the time, it's a messaging problem. It's not a price problem. So you hacking the price down will likely not change any of the messaging, which means it's not going to change the result that you're getting. And then generally that person throws in the towel because they're like, well, it just didn't work. Because I tried and it didn't work, and I dropped my price and it still didn't work, and so I quit. Don't do that. So the 5 steps: extract, identify, create, share, and generate. When you have those 5 steps and you're really clear about your purpose and your product and your price and your position and all the P's, you can have incredible results. So I am going to share again. This is for Rose. This is super cool. This is super cool. For Rose, still today, only has 400 followers, no email list, and a really controversial coaching topic. So microdosing, mushrooms. That's what he's standing for. That's what he's sharing on the internet. He decided to just go all in, trust the process, go through the 5 Ps, got really clear on all that stuff, and he just started to put out content. He started to slowly plant the seeds and slowly build his email list. Now, life threw him a curveball, and while we were in the middle of the program, he ended up in the hospital, and he missed 50% of the classes, 50% of the live coaching calls he missed. But he still watched the replays, and he put himself through the process, and he launched. And he had 3 people enroll in his program for the very first time. And what the 3 people did was not retire his wife from her 9-to-5 job, or he can buy private jets. No. What the 3 people did was put a feather in his cap, gave him the confidence, was the market research and the proof, the social proof that people actually were interested and wanted what he had. And it was enough of a push for him to continue to stand up and speak a little bit louder and stand a little bit taller with a little bit more excitement and confidence and do it again. He's got a waiting list of people that want to get into his program again. He 3x'd his one-on-one clients. He's becoming known in this space as a microdosing coach. And he doesn't have that fear anymore of what if, or like, how are people going to judge me, or what are they going to think, or I can't run ads, because on a topic like that, a lot of times you can't run ads. He didn't let that hold himself back. He said, I'm just going to go all in. Pretty incredible. And this is not his normal job. He's a musician by day. He's actually had a lot of different jobs. He's a fascinating guy, an immigrant from India, really cool guy. Common mistakes that people make. I said I've made a lot of them. I can do like a longer than a CVS receipt. And that's what I wrote here. Like, longer than a CVS receipt. We've all gotten them, of mistakes that I have made. And I don't want you to make them. There's 3 that we're going to talk about real quick before I break down the 7 steps of creating an irresistible offer. Cool? So mistake number 1 is kind of what we talked about in day number 1, which is coaches are focusing above the water. They're trying to do the stuff above the water. They're trying to rush results. They're looking at followers and website and logo. They're creating dozens of offers. They're changing the price when something isn't working. They're operating their business off of reaction instead of proaction. Ooh, I have done this. I know you have done this too. Reaction instead of proaction. It didn't work. I'm going to make a change. Oh crap. It's Valentine's Day. I should have put something together. Scramble, scramble, scramble. That's not what we do now in the business. That's what I did years ago. Everything for DBE Live, we started back in November. We were working on DBE Live behind the scenes in November and December. It was Christmas, New Year's week by the time I was done writing all of the emails for DBE Live. We're 3 months ahead, 3 to 4 months ahead of our businesses because we're in proactive energy. And what proactive energy allows me to have is what so many of you want, and that's freedom and flow. Because we're visionaries and we like to just do things as they come. I saw someone post in the Facebook group, like batching content doesn't work for me or scheduling content doesn't work for me because I like to just like wake up and feel it. I like to write what I'm inspired to write, what's on my heart. Me too. But structure creates freedom. So because all those emails were done back in December, I have been waking up going, this is what I want to say today. A lot of stuff is already done, but I have the freedom. I'm not worrying about writing emails right now. The team and I aren't stressed about what's going to happen. We were in the studio weeks ago for our first run through. Probably over a month ago at this point for our first run through. Yeah, I'm getting a yes. It was 6 weeks ago we were in here for our first run through. Don't just focus above the water. Now, I told you before, the fastest way to build $1 million business without burning out, and that might not be your goal, but take it in context, the fastest way to build a six-figure. If you could build $1 million business this way, I'll tell you, you could build a six-figure business this way. And it's not the followers, and it's not the logo, and it's not the website, and it's not a million offers and selling something every single day. You loved this one. It's selling one product to one person that solves one problem on one platform. You loved this one. This is how you do it. And you do it on repeat. Yes, stress kills creativity. Alexis, you nailed it. There's literally nothing worse than when you're in that central nervous system of like breakdown and you're so stressed, you can't be creative when you're coming from that place. It's the same thing as sitting behind the computer and the cursor is just blinking at you and you're like, write something. Write something, write something. No, it's when you're out for a walk. It's when you're in the shower. It's when you're listening to music that all of a sudden the ideas come in. And the scattered focus equals the scattered results. So make sure you are super hyper focused on what you're doing and what you're building. Now, the narrow focus, one of the ways that we even do this inside of a program, because this comes up, people are like, well, how do I do this when I have 100 clients? How do I do this when you're talking about 40 people in an hour instead of 40 one-on-ones? How do I do this? Take what you want, leave the rest. You can borrow this from me. Inside of Empower, we have workshop days where once a month, in the time where I know that the subject, the theme, the module, where I know that people are going to get tripped up because I've done it enough times, we insert a workshop day. And in the workshop day, we have every single coach from Team DBE come on, and we have all the clients come in. And then we utilize breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, now we're in rooms at 3, 4, 5 with a coach. And we can have a think tank. And we could use verbal processing. And we can do role playing. And we can get direct, immediate feedback. And we can be granular and move the needle inside of our business. It's all hands on deck. We don't focus above the water. We focus below the water. And I told you in day one, below the water is not that sexy, right? Mistake number 2, keeping coaches broke, is that they're throwing random spaghetti at the wall when it comes to content. They're doing the post and pray method. Click, I hope it works. Right? We've all done that. Post, woo! And then we probably post and ghost, right? Spaghetti at the wall isn't going to work. It's not going to work. So this is where things like psychology come in. And that's why we did the training on Saturday. So there's the different learners, the different buyers. We want to make sure we're really clear on our content pillars, on how to write copy. We want to make sure that we're using correct language, not our language, their language. And the different angles in which we can write from: myth busting, polarizing, storytelling, client results, imagine if, future casting. We want to learn how to do messaging. Messaging in itself is an entire market. It's a whole skill. There's a lot that goes into it. But when you know this stuff, then you're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall with your content. You're being very intentional. You're putting strategy behind what you're creating, and so you can be creative and flowy with strategy. Mistake number 3, keeping coaches broke, this is the biggest one, is that they're selling the wrong thing. It's the biggest one. I told you, and that's why we're going to focus on it today. What does that mean? Well, they're selling their product, not their offer. Let's first break down what the difference is between the two. A lot of people think that their digital or physical product is their offer, or they're too focused on the vehicle, the thing that's going to get their client from A to B, and they're creating before they sell it. So I'm going to break all of this down for you. Now, I've said it a couple times, Empower is our signature program. I don't sell Empower. Empower is the product. Nobody cares about Empower. Nobody knows what Empower is. I mean, they do because we've been doing it for so long. But Empower is not what people buy. The offer around Empower is what gets people interested and what gets people to buy. Empower isn't necessarily even the vehicle that gets someone from A to B. It's what I teach inside of Empower that gets somebody from A to B. And the idea of creating it before you sell it, this is really scary for people, but in a few slides, I will break that down for you. Now, I'm going to give you a little example here. We went to Greece last summer. It was incredible. So I'm going to use Greece as an example. So let's say I see MJ on here right now. Okay, so MJ, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to say, MJ, do you want to go to Greece with me? It's going to be amazing. You're going to pack your suitcase, try to slam everything in there for 2 weeks. You're going to get an Uber, head to the airport, get there about 2 hours early, and then you're going to check all your bags in. There's going to be a really long line that you have to wait in. When you get through, you're going to have to go through TSA. Even though you have TSA, they're still going to make you take your shoes off. You're going to get to the gate. You're going to sit there for about 45 minutes before you board. Then you have a 7-hour flight. And then when we land, we're going to get an Uber and we're going to have to go to our hotel. Okay. How does that sound? Not so great. I don't think that sounds so great. Now, I'm going to do it again. So who can we call this time? Okay. Alexis, girl, do you want to go to Greece with me? Okay. Mykonos, unbelievable. We're going to do the dancing on the tables, the smashing of the plates, the napkins, party till sunrise. Everybody there is so good looking. Oh my God, the water is crystal clear. You can see your feet. We'll get cocktails, mocktails, and then we'll head to Santorini. We could do that famous photo shoot with the dress, the really long dress with the blue roof and all the white buildings. Do you want to go? Mary said, dancing on tables, I'm in. That's right. Okay, everybody in the chat box, which would you rather do? Would you rather do A or would you do B? Do you want to go with MJ and I or do you want to go to Alexis and I? Yeah, number 2. This is the difference between selling an offer and selling a product. When you sell your product, the airplane, Empower, 12-week group coaching program, 75,000 calls, 180-page workbook. Do you know what that sounds like to me? The taxi, the cab, the waiting at the gate, the TSA, it sounds like work. And I hate to break it to you, but nobody wants to do more work. If they did, we wouldn't have a multi-billion-dollar diet pill industry. We want a quick fix, instant hub, Grubhub, instant Amazon, yesterday, tomorrow, give it to me now, I need it. We don't want more work. I want the destination. Your client, your potential client is on Island A, and there's a picture here. It's cold, it's raining. With all due respect, it's Seattle. Okay, they want to go to Mykonos. It's sunny and it's awesome. Seattle's really beautiful too. It really is. We've been there. It's so beautiful. But you get my point? We want to talk about where they are and where they want to go, not how you're going to get them there with 400,000 things that they have to do. That's exhausting. Your offer is how you talk about the whole journey and the transformation, where they are and where they're going. Your product is the thing that's going to get them there. But they don't care about that. And they are definitely not laying in bed at night going, I just wish I had Empower. If only I could have Empower. Googling Empower. How do I get Empower? That's not what they're Googling. They're Googling, how do I make money online? How do I get my content to convert? I don't understand why I'm not able to do this. If I could just leave this stupid job that I hate so much and build my own business. That's what they're thinking about. How do I lose weight? Why can't I just stay in my handstand? How come my wrists hurt every time I do it? I want to learn how to do short-term Airbnb. I don't understand how to X, Y, Z. So what are they thinking about? They're not thinking about your product. The frustrated entrepreneur is also prioritizing the money over the time, and we've talked about this, but that's not you because you're here today. Clearly, you're prioritizing time over money because you know that in this free training, you're going to learn something that can unlock something in your future. You can take what you learned today with your time, and you can invest it back into your business in your future, and it can make you more money, which is pretty amazing. And like I said, we're selling the vehicle, not the destination. We're focused on sales and we think they're sleazy. We're focused on sales and we feel like they're pushy. A lot of you have already said that in the Facebook group. I've seen it. I've seen it. You've had some light bulb moments and you're like, I'm so grateful that selling is a service, because that's what I told you the other day. Because when you have a solution to a problem, it's your responsibility to share it with people. And if you don't share it, you're robbing people of the opportunity for change, for transformation. Sales is just an invitation. And on day 3, I'm going to break it all down for you. We get so juicy on day 3. But for right now, I would love to break down the 7 steps to creating an irresistible offer. Are you cool with that? Are you still with me? We've been here for a while. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Invite your prospect to the party. It's a party. That's what it is. This is a great one. Feel free to screenshot it. A core offer, a solid core offer, is a simple and desirable offer that's communicated effectively to the right person at the right time. It should be easily accessible, scalable, sustainable, sellable. That's what a solid core offer is. What it is not is your product, your program, or your process. It's not. It's not your product, your program, or your process. There are 4 P's to a profitable offer. Now, these 4 P's just came up in the 5 steps we talked about. So the first P is going to be the promise. So what's the tangible outcome? What's the transformation? What's the A to B? And then bring in your story and your expertise. Who do you help and how do you help them? The second P is the process. So what's the methodology or the deliverable, the framework? And then how do you stand out from other people that are doing it just like you? Then we've got the position, which is your stance or your philosophy, and the phase of the launch that you might be in, because you're always launching. You're never not launching. Stay with me on day 3 and I'll break that down for you, because that makes people scratch their heads. You're never not launching. And then number 4 is the price. So what's the financial exchange, the value exchange, right? And is it reasonable? And is there an anchor there for people? Now, the only one that's missing in the 4 P's to a profitable offer is the product. Because remember, the product is not the offer. So that couldn't be in this diagram, because the product stands by itself. The product is over here, but the offer requires these 4. When you have this and when you understand this, you're able to create a lot of change and transformation. This is Des, another example. Des was selling the wrong thing, like 99% of the people that I work with, like 99% of the coaches and entrepreneurs in the online space. She was selling the wrong thing and it wasn't working. Now, she is a CPA, she's a bookkeeper, she's an accountant, and she saw the need for entrepreneurs who didn't know how to do this stuff for themselves, but they weren't ready to hire like a CFO. They weren't there yet. She also had less than 400 followers, no email list, and she wanted to help entrepreneurs take control of their money. She had a $38,000 first launch. That is almost how much money I made when I was a school teacher in a year. $38,000 first launch, respectfully, with a topic that I think is a little bit dry for some people. It's not the most exciting thing. She wasn't helping people make money. She wasn't increasing people's sex life. She wasn't helping people quit their jobs and move to Bali. She was helping people with bookkeeping. $38,000 first launch, and then she started doing speaking gigs and podcasts, you name it, and her business has continued to explode. So how do you break down your solid offer, an irresistible offer? Let's go through this. Number 1, this is in your workbook. Number 1, what's the problem you solve? Period. Don't overthink it. So what's the transformation you help people with? I'm going to give you a real life example as we go through these 7 steps so it starts to make sense for you, okay? So very simply, if you can already do it, write it down. What's the problem you solve? If you know it, put it in the chat box. I help people make money online. That's what I do. I help people build sustainable businesses that help them create holistic freedom in their life. I help people understand how to use social media effectively to convert more clients. It's really simple. Maybe you help people with weight loss, deal with conflicts in family businesses, conflicts in families. I help people feel better in their bodies. Yeah, we don't need like a fancy statement. Just what do you help people do? What's the transformation? I help people understand their dogs. I think Julie was on here. She's a dog groomer as well. I help people get rid of back and knee pain. I help ladies get through menopause. I help people make quality decisions, find work-life balance. I help them de-stress. I help with migraines. I love all this. Okay, so once you know what it is that you do, here's Spencer. Spencer is an example that I'm going to use throughout this whole thing. So Spencer wanted to help teachers prioritize themselves. Now, she was a school teacher as well. And when she was a teacher, she found that a lot of her health went to the back burner. A lot of her fulfillment went to the back burner. So she wanted to help teachers build better boundaries, master their mindset, and elevate their energy. Very simple. So then you go to the second question. Who do you solve it for? Now, most of you have already said that. Women, people, parents, crafters, yogis. So for Spencer, it was really easy. It was teachers. Be careful when you think about who you solve it for and you're doing the whole like ideal client thing, that you're not focusing on demographics, like how much money they make and what they look like. That's okay, but that's not really what you want to focus on. You want to focus on psychographics. So for me, like, are you coachable? Are you resourceful? Are you a team player? I don't care how much money you make. I care if you're going to be a really great client to work with, a really great person to have in our program, someone who's going to be resourceful. I don't love the super needy hand-holding all the time. That's not my preference. So for her, she said, I want to help teachers who are action takers. I want to help teachers who are resourceful, who are willing to do the work, and who understand investing in themselves. Because a lot of teachers, myself included, have a very limited mindset when it comes to finances. We do. A lot of them, because a lot of us don't make money. I was in one of the New Jersey housewife towns, like big money over there, very expensive to live right outside New York City, making $50,000 a year. It wasn't enough. And we were not flying private or anything fancy. We lived in a townhouse and it was like, we just got by with that. So question number 3 then is, what is the value for them? Let's discuss value. What's the value or the perceived value for them? Value is interesting. So, how many of you have a water bottle on your desk right now, or like a coffee, or a green juice, or an Air One smoothie, or all of the above? Okay, we generally are very hydrated in this society nowadays, which is great. We kind of like have water with us all the time. Whether or not you have water with you, I'm going to present to you water. So here you go. For $5, you can have this water right here, this water. It's okay if you already have water on your desk. I'm still going to sell you this water. So this water for $5, well, it's unicorn tears, and it was shaman blessed, and it came from Machu Picchu, and it's at the exact perfect temperature for the best frequency possible, and it's $5. Do you want it? Do you need it? Do you want to buy it? Most of you are like, no, I don't really need that. Better yet, if I said it was $20 and it was unicorn tears and it was shaman blessed and it came from Machu Picchu, $20, do you want it? You're like, no, I don't need that. I don't need that, right? Okay, cool. Now flip over here to this version of yourself who got caught in the Scottsdale desert where we used to live. We just moved from, and you're out there for 3 days and you're barely able to survive. I don't even think we could survive 3 days without water. I don't think we can get that far. But either way, you're out there for 2 days and you have no water and no food, nothing. And I come up to you and I'm like, I've got water. Do you want this water? This water, $5. And before I can even say that it's unicorn tears and has been shaman blessed and came from Machu Picchu, you're like, give me the water. I'm like, but it's $5. And you're like, I'll Venmo you. Talk to my spouse. Email me later. I will do whatever you need. Take the shirt off my back. I need the water. I'm literally going to die if I don't have the water. Now, the water did not change. My offer did not change. But the value of the transformation, the value of the object suddenly changed. Do you see that? Okay. Number one, this is messaging. I mean, I was just being silly there, but messaging helps change the perceived value. And if we want to keep going with that, it's like we will pay 50 cents for water at the market, and then it's $2 when you're at the gym, and it's $3 when you're in the movie theater, it's $6 when you're on an airplane, and then they have the audacity to sell it for $10 at a music festival. But we all buy it because when you need it, you need it. Can you understand how value changes based on the need? It's perception. Value changes based on the messaging. Yeah, the unicorn tears. I thought you'd like that. Okay, so Spencer understood the value, what this would mean for her teachers. So if they got better with boundaries and energy and excitement and motivation and their home life even, and their relationship to their job, what would that mean? Well, then they'd love their job. They'd be able to pour back into their kids at school and at home. They'd be better communicators. They'd deepen their relationships to other people. They'd have more energy. They'd be happier. They'd likely complete the goals that they had in their life. So the value of what she wanted to offer actually went really, really high. And then you go into step number 4. Number 4 is, what's a price that feels good for you? Remember, we can't just go industry standard. We can't just go hourly rate. We want to build our business around our life. So just at the drop of a hat, like snap thinking, what's the first price? What's the emotion that comes up for you? Now, depending on what you're selling, if one of you is creating an ebook, you're probably not going to be thinking of the same number as someone who's thinking of like a 12-week intensive group coaching program, or someone who's going to do 6 months of one-on-one. So without thinking of anything, you're just going to come up with a number that feels good for you. Very simple. We're going to move into the next step in just a moment. Remember, like I said, we want to build our business around our life. So what would feel good? I made the mistake years ago. I'll never forget one of my first group programs, courses. It was called Food Freedom University, is where I helped women to heal their relationship to food. And I had asked all of them when they wanted the calls to be. And at the time, this was many years ago, they wanted the calls on Sunday night. Okay, cool. We did it on Sunday night. And like 6 weeks, 8 weeks into the program, I'm like banging my head against the wall. Every Sunday, I've got like the Sunday scaries and I don't want to do the call. And I'm like stressed all day. Mike and I are trying to like go out and have lunch, do the thing, maybe laundry or whatever. And I'm like thinking about the 6 p.m. call that I have on Sunday. And it took me a little while to realize, number one, I started to become resentful of my clients and I was getting to be feeling like that burnout phase again. And I was like, wait a minute, I did that. I created that problem. I can just change that problem. Let me just switch it. I don't have to do Sunday night calls. It was very nice of me to ask them, but I didn't build my business for them. I built my business for me, right? So I shifted it to make sure that I was building my life around my business, my business around my life and not my life around my business. Everything changed. So with the price thing, you come up with this number and Spencer said $997, just about $1,000. That's what she came up with. It doesn't matter. You don't have to justify. $997 is what she said. Then you go into step 5. Step 5, trust me here, add a 0. Just do it. Add a 0. When you add a 0, so now 9970, $10,000. When you add a 0, it suddenly becomes a question of, well, what would I actually have to give them? What would I need to create? What would I need to provide? What would I need to include for it to be valued at that $10,000 range? And so this is what Spencer did. Wowza, $10,000. How did we get there? And from there, you're going to pause. Hold on. Before I go and do the next step, which I promise you we're going to take the 0 away, don't worry. Before I go and do the next step, what do I want my business to look like? We have to figure that out. The product that you're creating, the deliverables that you're creating, you get to create. Is it long-term, short-term, ebook? Is it in a group? Is it small group, big group? Is it one-on-one? Is it live? Is it recorded, pre-recorded? Let's break down for a second what the ascension model is, because we've talked about it. When you create a program that's intentionally designed with you in mind, that also walks your client step by step through your structured process or plan, well, that's where gold happens. Like that's where the magic happens. So what would you want to create? Now there's a zoomed in shot of this, so don't worry if you can't see everything here. This is a very basic ascension model or a product suite. Now, a lot of people teach it upside down, the other way, where it's like a funnel. I don't. I teach it right side up. And at the bottom of the so-called funnel or the ascension model, it's all the free stuff. So we've got like social media, email, text list, opt-ins, podcasts, guest coaching, hosting challenges, webinars, stuff like that. So this would be the bottom of the funnel, or if you flipped it upside down, the top of the funnel. Then we have our lowest ticket stuff, which is do it yourself. DIY, do it yourself. Here's an ebook you can buy and just do it yourself. Here's a course you can buy and do it yourself. That might literally be $17. It might be $297, but it's going to be lower ticket, do it yourself. Then we've got Evergreen, which is also do it yourself, and it runs all the time. It does not mean you don't have to sell it. It does not mean you get to sit on the beach and eat bonbons all day and never do work in your business. Don't get it confused. People are selling the term evergreen like it means you don't have to do anything. Of course you have to do stuff, because if people don't see it, it's like you're winking at them in the dark. So unless you have ads running, which you shouldn't until you have a proven process, right, and a proven method and client results, but unless you have ads running, like people need to know about the thing you're selling. So what I mean here by evergreen do it yourself is maybe it's a pre-recorded course that you did, but you're not live coaching in it. You still have to sell it. So you might have to still talk about it, send emails, do social media, but when they get into it, it's just happening, do it yourself. Then we've got group coaching, which is done with you. So usually that's more of like a group model, 10-week, 8-week, 12-week course. There's the hybrid of content and coaching and community, and then hopefully continuing education done with you. Then we have an elite group. This is where usually a mastermind falls, and that's called collectively done together. Peer-to-peer learning, a lot of think tank brainstorm. Everybody's helping everybody. It's not like a guru at the top. And the very top one would either be one-on-one or agency, and this is done for you. So you hire me and I build your website for you. It's done for you. This is the standard kind of ascension model. Now, where I love people to start is smack dab in the middle in group coaching. Smack dab in the middle of group coaching. Because when you work in a group with people, you're doing it with them, which means not only are they learning a lot, you're learning a lot. You're going to get more impact. You're working with more people in less time. You can obviously make more money. Generally, when it's done with you and there's a community aspect, people oftentimes get better results. That creates momentum. They become each other's accountability and support without you even having to do that. There's more opportunity for feedback from them to you, which means you get to then make tiny tweaks and changes to enhance the experience. This group model in the middle allows you to leverage your knowledge, your skills, your time. And it starts smack dab in the middle, which then the best part is when you hear from people in the group, you start to see what did they need before they came in the group, or what do they now want after they're in the group? So by starting in the middle, you've just optimized the direction that you can go in, as opposed to starting at the bottom and trying to work your way up, or starting at the top and working your way down. It's much better to actually just start smack dab in the middle. So that's actually what Spencer said. She said, that's what I want to do. And so I want to start in the middle because I don't want to trade my time for money anymore. I didn't leave teaching to have all these one-on-one clients. And so she decided she wanted to start in the middle. And at that $10,000 crazy price point, she's like, I'm going to be doing live coaching, and there's going to be resources, and there's going to be community. I'm going to have different guest experts come in. And I'm going to put all these things together, templates and journal prompts, so that it is delivered at a $10,000 value. But now don't worry, we don't have to do that, because the next step is remove the zero. Whew. Okay, that's much better. So we're creating the offer. We're creating the offer as though we were selling it with the zero on the end, because we want the perceived value to match that big number. But then we actually drop it back down to where we started, and we would sell it for the number that feels more aligned, more comfortable. And I don't want people just throwing out big numbers because they want to make big money. If you're not confident in selling it, they're not confident in buying it. If you're like, hey, so I've got this thing, it's great, and you should join it. Do you seriously think someone's going to pull their credit card out? I wouldn't. If you're not confident in selling it, they're not going to be confident in buying it. So start with a slower, a lower, a smaller price point. Work your way up over time. When you get the confidence, when you get the results, remember, the confidence comes from action and also results. You're going to feel more confident when you've gotten the results. Thank you. You're my favorite person too. You all are. I love doing this. Okay, so Spencer removed the zero. She landed back at 997, felt super aligned. She said aligned AF. And we started to package it together. We started to figure out, how do we present this thing? What does it look like? The recap for her, this one's a little small for me, so I'm going to try my best here. But the recap for her was, she was a school teacher. She was going through burnout. She wasn't fulfilled. She wanted to help teachers with things like boundaries and communication, all things that she felt she didn't have while she was a teacher. She stepped back. We went through all the process, the 7 steps of what that offer could be. We really honed in on what's the value of that offer. We added the imaginary zero. We built the offer to raise up to the imaginary zero, removed the zero, sold the offer, and she did it over 10K in her first launch for teachers. The people who don't have the good mindset around money, over 10K in her first launch. And now she's actually in our elite mastermind, which is all people doing 6 and multiple 6 and even 7 figures. And she's continuing to use the exact same process for a slightly new pirouette. Same exact process, lather, rinse, repeat, building an offer, doing the whole thing, going through the launch. She's never not launching, understands it. And she's now helping a slightly different clientele with a new offer. And it's not hard and it's not heavy because she knows how to do it, because it's a framework that she just plugs into. Yeah, go Sophia. I mean, go Spencer. Go Sophia too. Can you see how group coaching and how courses are such an effective way to build a profitable and sustainable and predictable and scalable business without burning out? Like, it's not rocket science. Like I said, it's simple, not easy. So let's start to talk. Once you've created your offer, then it's time to launch. Now, we've already been on here for an hour and a half, so I promise I'm not going to keep you today to talk about launching, but I am going to talk about launching on day 3. We spend a whole month inside of Empower on launching because you're never not launching. And I want to teach you a process that is a lather, rinse, repeat process. It's the exact process that I'm doing today. It's the same one that we do in our business. And remember, we don't want to create before we cash in. We don't want to make before we monetize. 80% of struggling coaches and creators are doing it backwards. Part of understanding it's this little flip here. It's a little flip here. Have you ever, let me know in the chat box, if you've ever sold something after you created it? Or better yet, have you ever created something like Canva, ebook, workbook, course, videos, and then tried to sell it? And if you're brave enough, will you tell me if it flopped or not? And I don't mean $0, but maybe like you spent all this time, energy, and potentially money, all these hours filming videos and editing and doing all this stuff. And maybe it didn't do well. It flopped, big flop, big flop, big flop. Yeah. Oh, I didn't put it out. Yeah, that happens too. It's like we create it and then we freak out. Perfectionism, it's the lowest standard, right? But also you live to tell the tale. So we're here to tell the tale. We want to sell it before we create it. And I know that feels really backwards and scary, but if you think about companies like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, they show us time and time again, it's all about the prototype. The prototype is the most effective way, right? The prototype is saying, hey, I've got this idea. Will you back it? Hey, I got this idea. Will you actually buy it if it comes to market? And when you do this method that, Kickstarter does, is they're getting the money up front. They're getting the concept validated by the market. They're getting to collect results from people or testimonials from people who are going through it. They're getting live feedback before ever spending time, energy, and potentially money building it. I know it's kind of scary because you're like, how am I supposed to sell something that doesn't exist, right? Like that's the question. How do I sell something that doesn't exist, especially when it's a digital product, which in itself doesn't exist? Like it feels like it already doesn't exist because you're not mailing someone something in the mail. You're not physically making something. So Jess, how would I actually sell something that doesn't exist? Well, that's why you have to know how to create an offer. The offer is the way that you speak about it, but the product itself doesn't have to be there yet. And the moment that the first person pays you, you start to build it. Now, we have a process that we teach where we use Post-it notes. You've probably seen people do it. And we teach you a process so that you can lay out a framework and a skeleton of what it will be that your product would be so that you can effectively talk about it. I get not wanting to talk about something that doesn't exist, but I don't want you to create it. So I have a process for you so that you feel more comfortable talking about it and you know all the details and everything from start date to price point and modules inside of it. But I don't want you actually filming a module until someone has purchased it. And the second that they do, you start. And you stay 1 to 2 weeks ahead of them. The first time that you build it, 1 to 2 weeks ahead of them. And then the second time that you launch it, it's already done. It's built. And you have client results that you can add in. What's crazy is without realizing this, I did this back in 2008. I believe he's on right now. Alex is a storytelling coach I worked with, and he helped me actually see this. I never saw it before. And I was on his podcast and he was interviewing me. And I had this breakthrough moment where he helped me realize that back in 2008, I actually tested this model out for the first time accidentally. Okay, you're welcome for the picture. This is 2008, Jess. I went to fashion school, I told you that, and I had an accessory line. Brace yourselves. It was called Glaze Accessories. I know, it's so good. My last name is Glazer. Can you believe it? So here we are. I was making handbags. I was actually making the fabric, like weaving ribbon together. And I was always making my own jewelry. I'm big into accessories. I make bracelets and stuff. And every time I'd go out, I was going out to New York City every weekend, club girl. And every time I would go out, people would say, wow, where's that from? Oh, you should sell it. Wow, where's that from? You should sell it. Now, this is between when I dropped out of my doctorate of physical therapy and I was trying to figure out my life and right before I went to fashion school. So I was back living at my parents' house at like 23 years old, post-grad school, working full-time as a personal trainer, figuring my life out. Okay. And so I'm so grateful. Spa 23, shout out to them in New Jersey. That was the gym I worked at for like a decade. They said, hey, Jess, why don't you set up a booth for the holidays in the lobby and sell some of your purses and like just see what happens? And I was like, well, I don't have inventory. They're like, well, just set up a couple of the purses that you wear. And then if people want to buy them, you can take orders. And I was like, okay, cool. So I got my mom to come sit with me. We sat in the lobby for like 6 hours one day, and I sold $4,000 in orders. What? I didn't have inventory. I didn't know what I was doing. Now, I was a trainer at that gym. I think people were just being really nice and they wanted to support me because they knew who I was because I worked at that gym. But regardless, I sold $4,000 worth of orders, and then I had to get to work. So I hired my mom and I asked her to help me, and we just sat in the basement and we just pumped purses out for like weeks. And it was in that experience that I realized, wait a minute, how crazy would it have been? This is real leather. They made me use it at FIT, real leather. How insane would that have been if I spent all this money on all these materials and all these hours? I mean, one purse would take me hours to make. I was making the fabric. And then I tried to sell them and no one bought it. Like, what? That would be crazy. And by taking orders, people could say, I want this style, but I want that color, but I want this fabric. And they were customizing it to themselves. And it was just about 2 weeks after that I decided to apply to FIT. That's how that happened. And that's how I ended up in the fashion industry for a blip of my life. If you're sitting there and you're like, I have no one to launch to, I understand. But I also want you to know that you don't have to have the following or the email list. We've talked about it before. Waiting to have the following, waiting to have the email list is like is like waiting to lose weight before you go to the gym. Waiting to lose weight before you go to the gym. It doesn't make sense. You got to go to get the result that you want. You've heard me talk about Empower a lot. And one thing I want to say about it is Empower did $500,000 in sales many years ago when I started it. $500,000 in sales before I said, maybe I should make a sales page. Maybe I should like have a little logo for it. Maybe I should have a website that has it on it. How did I sell $500,000? Like this. Telling people about the offer, talking about the pains, talking about the pleasures, and that was it. Doing this on Instagram with under 10,000 followers. I think at the time I had about 3,000. No email list, 0. Because I know it's hard to believe, but that opt-in that I showed you, Alter Ego Fitness, that did not build my email list. You don't need to create it first. We need to attract. Then we worrying about convert, and then we build and serve. Right? Yeah. Here's another example of Soji. Love Soji. He's the best. Soji was a rocket ship without direction. He didn't have fuel. His strategy was posting and praying. He was a trainer, and he was working as a coach as well, a sports coach. His in-sessions were burning him out, and he and his wife were expecting their first little baby. They now have 2. And at the time, he said, I can't do this anymore. Like, this can't be like this. And with a really tiny following and a really busy schedule, he created an extra $2,000 a month recurring revenue, plus had his first $15,000 launch, welcomed in not one, but then 2 little babies, left his full-time job, came home to be a stay-at-home working dad, and that's what he does today. He was able to scale his income and his impact with no large following, with no big email list, with none of the flash. He just understood. He learned how to create an offer. And he put the offer out repeatedly, over and over and over. There's a gentleman on social media a lot of people follow. He's like a big influencer, great guy. And he recently just posted about what he did for his Black Friday sales. He had a lot of Black Friday sales, and he's got, hundreds of thousands of followers. So he broke it down in a carousel, the kind that you can swipe through. And at the very end of it, so he said, after I did, runway for 3 months, which is part of launch, we'll talk about on Thursday. After I did 3 months of runway and I did this and I created my offer and I put it out, he said, I posted, are you ready for this? 4 times a day. 4 times a day for either 30 or 60 days, however long it was that he was in promo, 4 times a day. That's the consistency. That's the follow through. That's the integrity. So yeah, he had a big launch. Go figure. 4 times a day without worrying that he was going to annoy someone, because he knew that he had a solution to a problem. So my job is to take the messy action and learn, is to teach and help shift your beliefs and to show you what's possible. That's it. That's my job. I read something the other day that said, if you've ever felt crazy, like for doing what you're doing, people think I'm crazy. I'm so different. I don't fit in. If you've ever felt that or experienced that, say yes in the chat box if you have. What I heard was, you're not crazy. You're just the first. I was like, wow, I'm not crazy. I'm just the first. I'm going first in line. And when you're first in line and you're going through a dark tunnel, you're probably going to be the one who gets your foot wet because you're going to step in a puddle that you didn't see. And then your job is to say, hey, everyone, there's a puddle there. Watch out, step over it. And the goal would be that the people behind you don't make that same mistake as you. That's my job. I'm just going through the tunnel first. Compared to a lot of you. Yeah, Jamie Kern-Lima. Yeah, that is who said it. Jamie Kern-Lima, she said that, and I think in her new book, Worthy. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm just the first. It's a path unpaved. Of course it feels confusing. Of course I don't know what to expect. But we're not meant to do life or business alone. We're about to close it out. I need you to do yourself a favor. I just need you to do this for me. For you. You can turn your screen off if you want, if you have it on. But I need you to close your eyes for a moment. But you really got to do it. You really got to do it. I'm going to walk you through something, and I want you to really feel it, and I want you to experience it. So if I can just get a thumbs up from the studio when the music is on, because I actually can't hear it. Okay, awesome. Take a deep breath in and let it out. I want you to do that again. And when you take your deep breath in, I want you to shrug your shoulders up to your ears. Get them as high as you can. Clench that neck, clench that jaw, higher, higher, higher. And on your exhale, you're going to drop everything away. And let's do one more of those. Deep breath into the nose. Whatever you're thinking about, just be present here. We don't have to worry about the laundry. We don't have to worry about our to-do list. Exhale out. I want you to imagine that you're walking on the beach. Not like looking down at yourself walking on the beach, like step into your body, you're walking on the beach. And there's no one for miles. No one. Look to your right. Look to your left. What do you see? What do you feel? I want you to feel the humidity, the ocean breeze coming up against your face. It's like that little bit of stickiness and the sand under your toes. And you're just walking. It's like the best day ever. The sun is setting. Ugh, is there anything better? And as you're walking in your own world, doing your own thing, in all the gratitude, I call them gratiteers, when you're overwhelmed with joy and gratitude, you realize that there's someone in the water. They're at a distance and you're getting closer to them, and the closer that you get, you realize that they're drowning. They're actually calling for help. They're waving their arms. They're screaming. They're drowning. And as you get closer, they get louder. And as you get closer, you start to speed up and you start to run towards them. They're calling for help. I want you to think for a second about what you would do. They're screaming. There's no one around. You're the only person. What is it that you would do? And just visualize that for a second. And take a deep breath in. And exhale out. And before you open your eyes, I want you to just sit with the emotion and the feeling and the presence of what it is that you chose to do in that very moment, and put a smile on your face, and you can open your eyes. So I'm curious, how many of you chose service? How many of you went into the water? How many of you, and you can tell me in the chat box, how many of you decided to jump in and save the person? How many of you didn't let fear get in the way, but said, I have to go in? You didn't let judgment get in the way. You said, I need to help this person. You didn't let perfectionism or readiness get in the way. You said, I have to help this person. Now, what's crazy is I didn't tell you to make that choice. I did not prompt you and tell you to choose service. I let you make that decision on your own. I didn't prompt you. Recognize that you chose that yourself. You chose service over self. I also want you to recognize this. Some of you are still sitting on the shore of your business. There are people out there who are looking for you. There are people out there who want to work with you. There are people out there who have the problem and you have the solution, but you're sitting on the shore of your business because of fear, imposter, time, money, comparison, rejection. Now, I don't want you to judge yourself for wherever you might be in this scenario, but I want you to have that awareness. Yeah, of course it made you feel emotional. I went in, it's imperative. I don't have a choice. You do though. Isn't that funny? Yeah, and then we're in the same boat in our business, but we're sitting on the shore of it. Could you imagine? None of you would do that. Could you imagine just sitting there? You're like, oh, I'm busy, I'm journaling. Meanwhile, there's someone in the water like, help me. There are people in your audience that are screaming, help me, and you're not getting out of your own way. And I get it because it's scary. It's crazy to think that our time is actually starting to wrap up. I want to make sure as we wind down, we've got everything that we need. So tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, that's New York City, I will be live in the Facebook group answering all of your tactical questions, not logistical, not where's the workbook or how do I get replay number 1. Your business questions that you have. If you have a question from day 1, the bonus training, or day 2, there's a pinned post at the top of the Facebook group under announcements, and it says, ask your burning question here. You're going to ask your questions in there, and tomorrow I'm going to go live and I'm going to answer the questions. I'm going to go through the thread and I'm going to answer the questions. Now, there has been notification that we found out, some people haven't seen that area and we now know why. So at the very top of your Facebook page, I should have pulled my computer up. At the very top of your Facebook page, actually I can do it. Hold on. There is an area for featured. What's happening is if your area for featured, meaning all the stuff that we're pinning, if your area for featured is not toggled on, there's like a drop down I'm going to show you in a second, you're not seeing it. So this is what I want you to look at. Let me know if you want me to come in closer. Okay. Can we focus on the Facebook group? Are we going to be able to do it, Rebecca? We could do it. Okay. Hang tight. We got it. Okay. Yeah. So when you open the Facebook group and you see at the very top, it says featured on this side. And then notice that there's a little arrow here for you to drop that featured down. So I'm going to click the arrow and all of a sudden, all of the featured stuff, all the pinned stuff pops up and I can see the replay from day 1. I can see the replay from our bonus training. I can see the questions box for all the questions that you have. I can see the DBE live workbook, and I can even see a post explaining what I'm teaching you right now. Okay. But if it's not toggled on, meaning if that little arrow is there and you don't have the featured area open, when you go into the Facebook group, you're not going to see it. You're just going to see a whole lot of activity, which we love. So yes, they found it. Okay. You're going to go to the top, look for featured, and then click the little arrow. Once you do, it will remain open forever and you'll be able to see everything. But when in doubt, you also can just go very, very to the top, and there is featured and guides, and they're next to each other. So if you click featured, all that stuff will come up. And if you click guides, Lauren on our team has been busy putting everything that's important into guides. So day 1 guide has your digital business roadmap replay, as well as your workbook and your homework. The bonus training guide has the actual training from the bonus. Today's guide for day 2, crafting your irresistible offer, will have the replay as well as the workbook, as well as your homework. Yes, keeping everything really clean for you. So hopefully that's helpful. where was I? So tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, we're going to be going live in the Facebook group to answer your questions. Get your questions in there. And our time, like I said, is winding down, which is crazy. So just in a few short days, we are going to be opening the doors to Empower. But right now, all I want you to focus on is the work, doing the homework. And I'm going to tell you what your homework is in just a moment. And we're going to be announcing our winners for today. And we're also going to be moving into the best part, in my opinion, which are the 9 accelerators. This is the piece that you have missing. This is the piece we're focusing on day 3. So day 3 on Thursday, we're doing all of our sales system and we're filling in all of the 9 accelerators. And by the end of day 3, you'll be able to fill in your entire GPS guide, which means we'll have worked through having a solid foundation, a repeatable marketing mechanism, and a proven sales system that doesn't only get you sales, but it gets your clients results. So in our training on Thursday for strategic sales, like I said, we're going to complete the workbook. We're going to break down the 8 phases of launch, hence why you're never not launching. We're going to review the formula for consistent sales. We're going to even break down what a launch is. We're going to talk a lot about the difference between owned and borrowed lists, which could not be more timely because Facebook and Instagram were shut down this morning. And this is what I'm talking about. We don't want to rely on social media and we don't want to rely on being on 24/7 in our businesses. We're going to start to put a bow on everything. And as I said in the email from earlier today, you're here, which is amazing, but a lot of people aren't. Remember what you committed to when you came in. Now, before I give you your homework, I've got 2 important things. Number 1, winners. Shall we? So each day we pick winners for people who are posting their homework and their takeaways in the Facebook group. And so I have 3 winners from our Saturday bonus training. So can we do a little drum roll? Oh, perfect. Mike was on it. Little drum roll for our 3 winners. These are not in any order. Winners, what you are going to do is you're going to email Lauren at help@jessglazer.com. We'll put that in the chat. Winner number 1 is Jenny Green. Congratulations, Jenny. Winner number 2, Denise Rosales. And winner number 3, Kat Bowen. So we got Jenny Green, Denise Rosales, and Kat Bowen. We'll make sure we tag you all as well. Email Lauren at help@jessglazer.com. We've got your homework up here. We can zoom in on this. Lauren will be posting this in the Facebook group as well. So you're going to be filling in workbook pages 20 to 30, as well as some of the missing parts of the GPS guide. Drop your takeaways in and your aha moments on the Facebook group so I can announce our other winners on Thursday. A great journal prompt, something to think about. Where are you sitting on the shore of your business? Why are you even in this training? What is it time for you to do? Are you here to make a move? What's preventing you from making that move? And then add training 3 to our calendar. So we have on Thursday the 7th at 3 p.m. We'll be back in our studio here for the last time. Joining me tomorrow on Facebook at noon for our bonus live. And the most important slide of the day, y'all, would you please wish Lauren a very happy birthday for me in the chat box? We're not going to make you sing off mute because that would just be a disaster, but it is Lauren's birthday today and she has been working nonstop behind the scenes on this launch. And if you don't know who Lauren is, there she is in the picture. She is my right hand. She is the integrator or the COO of our company. And today is her birthday. So a massive shout out to Lauren. Happy birthday. We are so grateful for you. And with that, we're concluding day 1, friends. I mean, day 2. The studio just shot up a 2 for me. Day 2, it's been a long day. I'm so grateful for you. Get those wins into the Facebook group. Get those aha moments in. I love seeing your takeaways so much. And I'm not just saying this. Training number 3 is my favorite. So you're going to want to come back for number 3. If you have friends that you want to invite, you can absolutely invite them. We can drop the link there. People can still join us. It's not too late. We have the replays available. Do the work. The stuff doesn't work through osmosis. You got to show up for yourself. You got to do the work. You get to do the work. Did you hear me? You get to do the work. You're building a business. You're creating a life of holistic freedom. What a joy. What an honor. What a privilege. Overwhelm is a choice. The work, that's a privilege. It really is. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you on day 3.